Talking Canes recruiting, we got Brad Tejeda on the line from Canes Insight. Track him here on YouTube. Just type in Canes Insight. You'll find him right there, and the rest of the guys working on that platform that's outstanding. And Brad, I got to tell you, every time I have you on here, I get tons of feedback from people saying, got to have Brad on, have him on more, get him back on here. So it's always excellent. So follow Brad over there. We get him on here as much as we possibly can. He has got a lot going on. So we'll talk some Miami football here. So you brought something up early in the conversation about Miami, Florida State, that dynamic, and owning Florida.
Yeah.
So if we look back through recent, even past history, typically these are such great programs historically, maybe not necessarily now, but historically, that usually one of them's red hot on top of it, if not two of the three on top of it, and winning championships, competing for championships, and owning the state to a certain extent. We got a situation right now where Miami and Florida are in decent shape in different ways. Obviously, the Gators have been a little bit better on the field, the last couple of years, especially what they did last year. But they've got some negative things going on right now where they're not recruiting on top of their game. Dan Mullen's not necessarily known for that. Manny Diaz is inexperienced, but he's put together a coaching staff that's really good at recruiting. He's putting together now what could be a second consecutive really strong class on the fringe of the top 10. Florida State's been historically awful the last 3 or 4 years on the field, but they're showing a little vibe there. They got some juice going in the recruiting game. So can you kind of give us what you think the narrative is across the state in regards to where these three programs stand and who's got the upper hand and who owns particular areas of the state and just kind of where we stand right now in terms of perspective?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, unfortunately, any Florida State fans watching, they kind of been in the back for the past 4 to 5 years. If we're being honest, they have kind of gotten the scraps out of everything else. They're kind of reaching for and crawling for just about anything that's leftovers. But here currently, as far as with Florida State, they're getting a lot of guys who just wanted to be Florida State Seminoles, and it seems like they want to stay like that. You know, someone like Travis Hunter, who's a 5-star, someone like Sam McCall as well, who was supposed to be at Miami today, ended up going to Florida State, where he's recently committed to as well. So you got those two guys, Julian Armella as well, and then possibly someone like Marvin Jones Jr., who just like his father was at Florida State, could be another guy. That's just currently. But, you know, going past 4 or 5 years, they haven't really been much. When it comes to Florida, Miami, though, Mark, that's where it gets interesting. It seems like Florida is kind of owning, you know, the Jacksonville area, specifically certain high schools like Lakeland as well. Lakeland seems to be dominant Florida. And if you look in the past 5 years, Lakeland produces a lot of good football players as far as that high school. But the recruiting aspect, it seems like coaching is what really came into play, is where Florida just seemed like they had a lot more coaches that knew what they were doing as far as the recruiting aspect. Again, going back to relationship builders, they knew the pinpoints on what to hit with certain recruits, especially with their family members, to where anytime it seemed like Florida and Miami had a position battle, unfortunately, it seemed like Florida won most of the time. I think the only time Miami kind of won was the Leonard Taylor and the Nessa Silvera battle. And I think with both of those guys, they wanted to be at home from the get-go. But other than that, I think it just comes down to the relationship builders, the coaching staff, and Florida really cares about their football program a lot. They have no money dishing a lot of money into that system. For instance, Dan Mullen, who a lot of people thought every other year would be going to the NFL, like I thought myself, he just got an extension today for, I believe, 4 or 6 years. So he's going to be at Florida for a very long time, along with their basketball coach as well. Where with Miami, we're in a very different situation. As we all know, with Miami fans, we don't get enough money funded to the football program, in my opinion, when it comes to certain matters. But the proof is in the pudding. You've got to put out potential product consistently in order to get that money funded to you when it comes down to it with this program. And Miami just hasn't done that. We got to do it consistently. And I think that also goes into the recruiting aspect and winning that battle with Florida, not necessarily in the state, but against the University of Florida as well. these recruits that we're going after, at the end of the day, they're seeing Florida on national television, you know, playing with the Alabamas, right? As good as Alabama was last year, went to championship, won it all. The team that gave them the biggest fight was the Florida Gators. And that leaves a little imprint, along with, you know, winning a bowl game and going to a big time, you know, bowl consistently, which are things that Miami hasn't done yet. So I think the first thing that we need to do is we got to win the Coastal. We got to get to a bowl game and win a bowl game. That's something that Miami hasn't done consistently. And it goes all into our coach with Manny Diaz. You know, Dan Mullen's not really in a hot seat. He's very comfortable with his extension, so there's not really much pressure on him. Well, with Manny Diaz, he's on a lot of pressure. It's his third year. He just hired pretty much a brand new coaching staff on defense. He's got all the keys, in my opinion, to win and to get to the big games. It's just a matter of him being the head coach to do it. You got the players, you got the coaches, you got one full year under a Rhett Lashley offense. So now we got to get to work and put out some W's.
Brad Tejeda, Canes Insight. We always appreciate the conversation with Brad. And Brad, we just want to make sure that everybody knows exactly where to find you, whether that be on Twitter, Canes Insight, everything that you guys have going on and what's coming up here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, man, you can find me on Twitter at Tejeda Brad. That's TEJEDABRAD. I post most of my work and info on there. And then, as always, you can catch us on YouTube every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time on the Canes Insight channel. That's CANESINSIGHT right below. We have a channel that we go on Wednesdays with me and my co-host Chris. We usually in this time we get recruits on a weekly basis, break down some film with them, and then we'll talk a little bit more recruiting. We had Larry Bluestein on, Kamari Rogers. You know, since we're here on the Mark Rogers Show, I might as well just say it before I even put it on social media. But tomorrow we expect to have on Jordan Allen and possibly Chris Graves. So one of the big targets that is going to be in Miami, not only today, but over the next 3 or 4 days. And Jordan Allen, we'll have him on tomorrow, see how everything's going over the weekend, how he's feeling with things. And we got a show on Sundays and Tuesdays tonight as well with different channels within the Canes Insight. So make sure you check it out.
Sweet. Great stuff. Canes Insight. We always hear good things, and Brad's done a great job every time he's jumped on here, or else I wouldn't ask him, and he knows he's got an open invite all the time. Brad, we appreciate you stopping by, man.
Thank you. You have a good one, man. Go Canes.
You too.